Hey there everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we're going to be making some home decor, and I'm going to focus on this product today. This is the Irish Blessing Blooms, and it's beautiful. If you don't know about it, it's just a really cool thing, and there are matching dies to go along with that. Not for the words, but for all of your flowers and your foliage. So I'm really excited to use this, and I definitely wanted to make some home decor. That being said, I needed some frames, so I went to my local hobby store and I found a pack of 5 frames that are 4x6. They're the perfect size for this, and so these are what we're going to use. We're going to do 2 of them, and I have cut down 3 pieces of watercolor cardstock. This is some Arteza expert watercolor cardstock, and those are cut down to 4x6 because, like I said, we're making some 4x6 pieces. And I'm going to pull out some distress inks. I'll have them all linked down below, but I'm putting this just onto my mat. And those colors are old paper, antique linen, and shabby shutters. And then I'm just going to kind of run my fingers through that after I spritz a little bit of water on that. And we're going to use this puddle of color for all 3 of those pieces. We're just going to kind of run that through the color. And then I'm going to clean off that color. And I do want to heat set these in between. Now we're only going to go through this process twice, but this can be a ton of fun. And I'm kind of obsessed with this right now, doing this process of just like inking up backgrounds. I did it in the past a bunch, and now I'm kind of coming back to it because I just really do love it. We're going to bring in that old paper again, some antique linen, and a tiny bit of the shabby shutters because the shabby shutters really did add a lot of green to these. And I want these to be maybe a little less green. The green's fine, but I want these to be a little bit more of that antique linen kind of thing. So we'll do the same thing with those. We're going to clean up our mess, and we're going to put our mat away because I really did only want to do this twice. And then we're going to heat set these really, really well. All right, so that's what our backgrounds look like. They really do look a lot different than when you have them wet. So these are nice and dry. And now I'm going to bring in the antique linen again, but this time we're going to use a blending brush. There's a lot of white on those backgrounds, and just bringing in my brown blending brush with the antique linen is making those kind of a little bit more subdued, and you'll be able to see the difference on those 2 on the left hand side. So we're just kind of rubbing that on the edges, and then we're blending into the center a little bit. Just want to cover up a little bit of that white. And I really love how these turned out. Exactly what I was hoping for, a nice subtle light background, and those will be fun to put things on top of. So here are how those backgrounds. I'm going to bring in my Mini Misty, and then I'm going to bring in the stamp set. So once again, that's the Irish Blessing Blooms. And I'm bringing in just the words. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat in the background. He's freaking out about something. So I apologize if you can hear him. He's fine. He's just doesn't like to be alone. Okay, so I'm trying to center that up. I'm going to close the door of the Misty and pick that up with the door. I'm using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. It is a black pigment ink. And I am going to stamp this several times. Now, I did say that this is a watercolor cardstock, and this is that expert one by Arteza. And I am going to have to ink this up a couple times because watercolor paper is pretty textured, and I did do this on the textured side. And I'm okay with that because that gives it that really deep black color. And so I do it a total of 4 times. And again, love how it looks. And the blessing is just so sweet. I think these are going to make really actually very good hostess gifts. I oftentimes have to give out hostess gifts just with what I do on the daily, and it's nice to have something like that to bring, at least a little different than the traditional like candle or whatnot, which everybody loves candles too, right? Okay, so now we're going to ink up the flowers, and we're going to stamp those a couple different times. Now, if I were to do this over again, I would have stamped it right on the pieces that I've already stamped the blessing on, just because I could have gotten 3 out of this, because this really kind of was unnecessary to stamp it on a separate sheet that I've inked up. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to add some dimension with some foam squares at this point. So that is why I decided to do it like this. All right. We're going to do that again. So now those are all good to go. And now I want to watercolor them. And I'm going to go with a more of a painterly look. I have worked with this watercolor paper before, and the distress inks that I'm going to use, they do lighten up. That's just the nature of the distress inks themselves. And you can layer them up nicely, but they do dry back and kind of fade back a little bit. But I want these to kind of seep outside of the image themselves. So this is why, for one, I chose this paper and that ink. If I didn't want that painterly look and I still wanted to use this watercolor paper, I would have used some clear embossing powder over the top of my black ink. Because it's a pigment ink, it would hold on to that clear embossing powder, and then it would basically create like a little well for the watercolor. But I'm going to show you after I'm done just coloring all of these leaves how you can see that paint, once it starts to dry, it kind of just spreads outside of those black lines. And you can, again, like I said, you can build your color up a little bit, but it is still going to spread. Now, I haven't really done a whole lot of this on the Distress watercolor paper, but this is the look you get when you do it on this type of paper. I do like how it spreads out. That's kind of what I was going for. All right, so the colors that I've chosen to use, that green is Mowed Lawn. We've got Mustard Seed, we have our Picked Raspberry, Seedless Preserves, and our blue is our Uncharted Mariner. And so I chose a variety of colors that would just add a little bit of pop, and you'll be able to see that over time, like, because I have this sped up twice, that those colors really do dry back a little bit, and that's okay. So I'm going to add some more color on top of it by layering, but in the end it does dry back a bit, so I'm okay with it. It's fine. And you'll notice, obviously, I did this on my glass mat, which has the little area on the side where you can take your Distress ink cubes and just kind of put those down for watercolor. So I'm just going to finish up my painting here by adding in our last little bits, which is the blue, and I feel like that just really kind of rounds it all out. We have our little white daisies in there that are kind of looking a little bit vintage, especially with that old paper and our antique linen background. I just love how that looks. And then I'll just finish up on these bottom pieces as well. Looking back, like I said, I really wish I had just kind of stamped these right onto the pieces themselves, because I didn't end up adding any foam tape to them at all. And that way I could have had 3. But that's okay. We're going to work with what we have. And I'm done painting. I decide to bring in some scorched timber, mostly because I want to have a little bit of splatter. I just love splatter. I know some people really hate it. Some people really love it. I'm in that really love it camp. So we're going to splatter that all over that background, and love how that looks. Now, we definitely need to make sure that's nice and dry before we move on to our next step. But while I'm doing that, I decide to bring in the 2 pieces that I've stamped our sentiment on. And I am going to try to just stay to around the sentiment, and on this one I do a fairly good job of that. The other one, I think I get a couple of splatters on the words themselves. I don't think it skews it too much. You can read it just fine, but yeah, I really love how that looks. And the more I need, I just keep spraying it right onto my glass mat, and that brown just looks so good on that background. It almost looks black here in the video, but trust me, it's a beautiful dark brown. And then again, you do want to make sure that these are nice and dry so you don't smudge your scorched timber, but that might be sort of the look you're going for. I do end up smudging a couple of them later on, but it's okay. I don't mind the look. All right, so here we have it. They're still kind of wet. I'm going to go ahead and hit these with my heat tool before I bring in the die cuts. You definitely want to make sure you're doing that, because that will transfer onto your plates, and I mean, it'll wipe off, but again, I don't want that transferring onto my other projects. So we'll tack down our dies on top of our images with a little bit of mint tape, run that through the die cutting machine a couple times, and then we have our pieces. And this is where I decided, yeah, I'm not going to pop these up on any foam tape because I am going to use the glass in there. I want that to, definitely look like just a straight up home decor piece, and we're just going to use our liquid glue to adhere everything down. But I'm really, really loving how these look. And I also just really love how simple these were to put together. So simple, in fact, that I definitely could make a bunch more of these and feel pretty good about having these in my stash for little hostess gifts. Heck, I'd love to receive one of these, so I might just have to make myself one. All right, so we're going to glue those down, make sure that's all good to go, and then we'll bring in our frame, as you can see on the side there. I kind of buffed the glass to make sure there weren't any smudges on those. And I'll make sure that everything is nice and dry on my pieces before I put those in there. But we're just going to set that in there and we can close up the frame just nice and easy. And there you have it. And these frames that I picked out could easily be painted over if you didn't want them to be white. So we'll close those up and I'll do that for both of them. And then we'll have both of our sweet little hostess gifts all ready to go. And I just love how these turned out. And I hope you like them too. If you do, please leave a comment down in the comment section and hit that like button for me if you wouldn't mind. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you guys have given me lately. I've just really appreciated it. And I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.